everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Holly Langley. I am the founder and CEO of Restack. Before I want to dive in and talk to you about all things automation and how it's going to make all of your recruiters' lives hopefully a bit easier, I thought you'd probably benefit from knowing a bit about who I am and what we do. So, this is my journey in the world of recruitment. Before I was in recruitment, I was a nanny. I trained to be an English nanny for 2 years, literally down the road in Reading, and I've pretty much lived in Reading ever since. I absolutely loved it. And I did it because I was determined to never work in an office. But look how that turned out. Yeah, exactly. And funnily enough, I was 17 when I went to college. My first night out was in Reading, and I'm pretty sure it was in this nightclub. So it's been a full circle moment, and I'm very grateful for it. Around sort of 10 years ago, I started thinking, hang on, I'm not sure if I can continue to be a nanny. I want to do something a bit different. And I ended up getting a job in a recruitment agency based in Wokingham, just down the road, who did IT and tech recruitment, and went into the world of operations. So I was responsible for the technology, HR, the office, compliance, you name it. I was responsible for that and that part of the business, apart from the actual recruitment and the recruitment teams, which then Jess then came into the Simply Commerce and then took over. 2.5 years ago, I was thinking to myself, there's more that I want to do. I knew my purpose was to go and work with a variety of different recruitment agencies, and my boss amazingly kept saying no when I'd go into my quarter reviews and say, I want to go and work with other agencies. I want to go and see what other agencies are doing. My boss was going, no, Holly, that's clearly not going to happen. So I took matters into my own hands, launched Restack, and ever since then, we've been working with agencies across the UK, US, and Australia as well to help them maximise parts of their tech. We mainly focus our work within a very specific niche in bullhorn customers, but primarily we can work with any tech that companies have got to help them streamline things, make their recruiters more efficient, which is where a lot of automation stuff comes into. So this is the tech stack that I walked into in my old job. There is a lot going on there. Now, some of this stuff connected. We didn't have a product like Wave at the time. So there was literally applications coming into inboxes and stuff was going on, stuff was going out. And there was also 1,000,001 spreadsheets that we had to make all of this work. And wasn't really connected. It wasn't really working. And I knew that there was an answer, and kind of bringing all of this together over the course of a few years really allowed sort of the automation stuff to take it to the next level and streamline and make our recruiters more efficient. So I still see this in a lot of agencies now. And there's definitely no one size fits all to solve all of these automation problems and the linking all of these. But there's going to be one key thing that I'm going to keep saying over the course of this is that the automations that we build and off the back of either applications or marketing output, it's only going to be as good as the quality that is going into the system, which means that stuff really needs to be connected all together. If you've got products over here, products over there, applicants in your emails that aren't getting passed onto the system, it's going to be a lot harder for this all to work in unison. We need to be trying to create an environment for our recruiters that is efficient, and ideally there is one single source of truth. So there is one place where all of these automations, efficiency gains, data, finance reports can be run from. So why automation? There is 1,000,001 answers to this, but for me, there's a few key things that I wanted to talk to you through today. So, efficiency. The roles of a standard recruiter is pretty busy. They've got a lot going on. They're engaging with candidates. They're sending specs out to clients. They're trying to update people for interview. And there is still so much manual work that gets done. If your recruiters are putting through an email 5 times a day to remind those candidates that they've got their interview tomorrow, that's a lot of manual work that can be done through automation. Now, what automation is never going to do is, in my opinion, is completely remove the role of the recruiter. There is still a really, really key part that all of our recruiters have to play, but I really believe that is putting the human touch into everything and making sure that they are having really valuable conversations with their clients and their candidates at the right time, which means they can do much more volume of there's a much bigger volume that they can do of that in comparison to them having to be doing inefficient tasks that aren't moving it forward. Additionally, we've got accuracy. Having things like automation in your business means that things can be done every single time to a very high standard. The amount of times I go into agencies and I see candidates haven't been rejected even though the job has been closed, or people haven't been given feedback after their interview, we can make sure that every single time consistent and accurate information is going out. I really believe that automation can improve the candidate experience. We can make sure that candidates are well looked after, they're nurtured throughout the journey, they are sent jobs that are actually relevant to them, they get timely feedback. What we're seeing, as Dave was saying, there's so many applicants are coming through for jobs. What's really, really, really annoying candidates at the moment is when they don't hear back from people. People want to be acknowledged. Even if they're not right for the role or the job is closed, that's okay. They just want to know. I've been in the process of buying a new car recently, and I rang the garage to say, can I come in and do a test drive? They didn't answer the phone. I rang twice, nothing. I then sent them an email online and did the web application. Nothing. I still have not heard back from them yet. And needless to say, we went to another garage to get the car. And I so could not believe that I was a buyer trying to give them my money and buy a car, and that experience from a buyer's perspective wasn't good enough. That was really probably easy for them to solve, but throughout this experience is going to come back and really be improved with the automation. Also, we've got 24/7 recruitment. Your recruiters aren't working 24 hours a day. They're not working over Christmas. They're not working at the weekend. But if you've got candidates who are coming in and are applying for jobs at 6 a.m., 11 p.m., Christmas Eve, we can get those applicants onto the system like Dave has just shown us, and we can start nurturing them and giving them value about your information, potentially even sending them and matching them for other live jobs that you already have in your system. And that can happen non-stop. So by the time your recruiters get to their desk, they already know which are the top candidates they should be calling and engaging with for those jobs. And no matter how large your recruitment team is, you're never going to quite achieve that 24/7 recruitment without the element of automation. We've got some excellent data-driven insights to make sure that you can be making the right choices for your business based upon what is actually happening and what your recruiters are or aren't doing. We've got consistency, I believe is really important as well, which I've already touched upon, because you can make sure that even if you've got 50 people in your business, we know they're all probably doing something in a slightly different way because this person's been on this training course, this person's been here for 20 years, this person's just joined. Having that consistent approach will mean that your recruiters are following the same process, they're following the same platform, and that will never change. Of course, you might have different teams that have slightly different ways of working, and you can then adapt it towards that. But that consistency across your business, especially if you're looking to scale, is a fantastic, fantastic thing through automation. And I truly believe that automation will give you a competitive advantage. There are companies out there who have got no sense of automation with their business. They can't do email campaigns. They don't have that. And there are companies now who are sending out live jobs to candidates. They're doing pre-screening through AI or automation agents to make sure that the recruiters are coming back and are giving the candidates the best experience, which means they're speaking to the right candidates and the right contacts ahead of your competition. So there's a lot of automation benefits and lots more as well. If you have any others that you think has been life-changing in your business, please come and let me know. So the big thing that I want to kind of talk to you about today is how to discover what should be automated. So what I can't do is sit here now and go, I really think that you need to go and do this automation and it's going to save you 1 million hours and you're going to make an extra £10,000 a week. Like, it'd be great if we could do that. But before we start any sort of automation or automation journey within the business, we need to kind of get a few things in line. And this is, if you can use these kind of 6-7 points as a bit of a blueprint, that is really going to help you going forward. So first of all, before you do anything, we need to discover what is actually happening. If we said to our recruiters, are you giving everybody feedback after their interview? I suspect they'll go, yeah, they will. Yeah, we do that. But actually, are they? If they are, fantastic. Then you've got that uniformed approach. You can then sort of work out what you need to do from an automation point of view. However, we also need to understand from asking your team and looking at what's happening in your CRM, what is actually happening. I've got a client at the moment who's And I had this conversation. I said, do you reject them? Yeah, we reject them. No, they don't. They've got 55,000 candidates in the last 3 months who are all still sitting at interview because nobody's rejecting them through the process. So it's really crucial to understand what is actually happening. You can do that from looking at your reporting, looking at your systems, and asking people on the ground what they are doing and seeing if that matches. Additionally, get some candidate feedback. I'm going to speak to you later on about net promoter scores and how that is a fantastic thing you can automate, but getting candidate feedback will help you understand what you can do to improve their candidate experience going forward. Candidates may want less marketing from you, they may want more. They might want more live jobs, they might want less. The only way to know this is kind of understanding what those candidates want. Don't be afraid to ask. This is a great incentive that you can kind of do for your team. This is sort of stuff we used to do. Like, get your team to ring up candidates and ask, like, how is our service at the moment? Do you need anything more from us? Actually, I would love a salary insight guide. Or do you know what? You've sent me 100 emails about live jobs in the last month. Back off a bit. So get that conversation going and really understand what your candidates want. Same as clients, get that feedback from your clients when you're meeting with them, when you're engaging with them. Understand how you're delivering. You can come through, you can look at your fill rates, you can look at your time to fill and the data all around that and find out what do your clients want more of. Do they want to get updates from you saying, we need feedback from these CVs, we haven't heard from you? Do they want more from you from like a more interview prep? Do they need to be reminded about interviews? Is there anything like that that you can get feedback from? Now, this here, consultant feedback, is probably the single biggest thing I'm going to highlight today. We need to ask your recruiters. Your recruiters are doing this day in, day out. Now, there is going to be challenges and there's going to be things in there that they absolutely hate doing. Now, some of it, let's face it, it will always remain as part of their job. But there may be other elements that they are doing 5, 10, 15 times a day that, lo and behold, we know could be automated. I was with a client a few months ago when we were doing a process mapping exercise, and I established that the head of sales was spending about 4 hours a week emailing the head of finance to say, can we do a credit check on this client? Because every single time they brought a job on, they did a credit check on this client, on all of their clients. So the head of sales spent 4 hours a week doing that. And I went in there and I was like, you know, that's one, ridiculous, and two, give me 20 minutes and I can fix an automation up for you on that. And that has now saved so much time for that specific head of sales and that recruiter. So, but I would never have known that was a thing otherwise. So make sure you ask your consultants, and no matter anything through a change process, anything that's happening within your tech or your business, ask your consultants for feedback. It may open up a can of worms, and they may come to you and say, there might be things that you can't do. They might want to do loads, they might have no ideas at all. But if you give them that platform, then that is kind of helping you understand what changes you can make in the business to improve what they want. And they really enjoy being listened to. And 9 times out of 10, I like to think we can solve it. And if we can't, we can acknowledge it. So definitely always ask for that consultant feedback. Data improvement. So I've just mentioned fill rates and sort of time to fill. For me, there's kind of 2 things, fill rates especially. Over the last couple of years, I think we've probably worked with about 75 businesses. Nearly every single one has said, Holly, I need more jobs. And I've gone, okay, here we go. So I go into their system and I go, but you've told me you need more jobs, fantastic. You've actually only filled 20% of your jobs. And they go, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah. So what, do you actually need more jobs? Or do you need better quality jobs? Or do you need to make sure you're getting the candidates through the process to fill the jobs that you've got so we can get that fill rate to 30, 40, 50%? I've got a client whose fill rates are 50 to 60%. They grade all of their jobs and they are really regimented at making sure every candidate gets through the process and the clients know about giving feedback. So look at some key data points and that will analyse what you need to do. So my recommendations would be fill rates, time to fill, what percentage of your CRM has been spoken to in the last year. So out of everybody, out of all your candidates, and then do the same for contacts, how many have been spoken to? The average, I think, is like 3 to 5% without automation because your recruiters just cannot get through the volume. So do go and have a look at that, and then you can start to think about what can we do off the back of this to automate parts of this process through marketing or automation to drive that communication and improve that data. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, just time and resource will equal efficiency gains. What is happening? What is taking the longest part of your business? Is it the interview feedback? Is it the post-placement aftercare? Is it advertising jobs? Is it the pre-screening of the candidates? What is taking the most time in your recruiters that we can free up that time and get them doing things that are going to drive more value in the business? We want your teams working effectively and we want them driving value. So what does that look like? What can we free up? Now that doesn't necessarily just have to look at recruiters. That could be the finance teams. That could also be the communication that is happening between the different teams. So there's a whole load of stuff there, and I'm sure we can send around the slides after about, and if you need any more help on kind of how you go about doing this, then just drop me a message at any time. More than happy to speak to you about that. But this is kind of what we do, and this is our methodology at Restat to understand what is happening so we can help and look at what needs to be automated. So with that in mind, I'm now going to go through 4 examples about some automation ideas that I think every recruitment business should have right now. So first of all, candidate applications. So this is very similar to what Dave was saying at the moment. There are so many candidates coming through, which is fantastic, but they're not all high quality candidates. So when candidates come through, I believe that we should automatically send a thank you email saying, thank you for applying. Now, if you've got a third-party product such as Wave, I'm sure it does all that for them. Yes, he's nodding, thank gosh. And if not, and if they're going straight into your CRM, then send something through, okay? What I really believe in is if you need to collect more information on the candidate, now is the time to get it. So send them, if you can through automation, a form to collect details. Worker rights and their right to work, their availability, salary expectations. If you send an automated survey to a candidate saying, please can you fill this in, they're much more likely to complete it at the time they've just applied for your job rather than 3 weeks later. Coming back to what I was saying earlier, if your candidate applies at 7 p.m. and that is with them by 7:30, they will have had a chance to complete that. They might be able to upload other information as well about their skills to clean your data. That means 9 a.m. the next day, your recruiters can say, well, that person isn't right for their role. They want a ridiculous salary. That person doesn't have a right to work in the UK. That person is perfect because they're available. So you can gain that information. Your recruiters can come in and see the candidates that are then a better fit for the role. This means we can then automatically reject and archive unsuitable candidates. What we don't want is if you've got candidates coming through to your system that just aren't good enough because they're in the wrong location, or you've got a job for an IT professional and the postman is applying, you may not need them on your system. So we can also automatically reject, and then coming back to my example about the car, make sure you then send them an automated email to reject it. This is really simple stuff, but it's going to make such a difference because it's going to clean your data because people who aren't on there aren't going to be on there, and it's giving a better experience. Now, once we've done all of those, as I mentioned, we can notify the recruiter and say, if there is a strong match, notify the consultant for follow-up. And then, for those candidates who we think are going to be good, even if they're not right for that role, we can nurture and redirect them. We can, for the candidates who aren't moving forward, because, for example, the job is in Leeds and they live in Southampton, put them into a re-engagement sequence, send them other relevant jobs, get them to update their profile or whatever via a survey, and nurture the silver medalist. So the way that our definition of a silver medalist is someone who has applied for a job or potentially is interviewed and hasn't quite got there because they're not quite right. What we normally do as a industry is kind of ignore those, and we'll call them again in 6 months when another job comes in. But what we want to happen is we want to keep them nurtured so they know who you are. So when you do call them and say, I've got a job for you, they go, oh yeah, I remember you. Thank you for sending me those emails recently. Thank you for sending me that salary information. I had no idea that the change in X, Y, and Z legislation is going to have a direct impact on how much I earn or what that looks like for my job. So managing candidates throughout the application process is going to be crucial. Obviously, if you have got like things like Wave or whoever, speak to them, because a lot of that can be done in the product. If not, a lot of this can also be done in your CRM. So speak to whatever suppliers you have to nurture that. Obviously, things like LinkedIn, I know, have parts of this within it, because you can send automatic rejections and stuff like that as well. But really look at what is going on. And one of the things that we've also recommend our clients to do is get a few of you to apply for a job with you and see what that looks like. So get someone to apply for a job, and obviously put it as a test email and see what that journey looks like. Obviously, the recruiters will know it's you, but it's always quite interesting to see like what happens when you get rejected, what messages come through. So that's going to really improve your candidate experience. Now, this is the benefits, I believe, of doing this. It's going to save recruiters time, because it's going to be filtering out the bad candidates. It's going to improve the candidate experience, because they're going to get instant communication and clear next steps. It prevents missed opportunities, because your recruiters are going to be alerted to the top talent. So everybody who is hopefully actively looking and is good are going to be top of the list. This means that your recruiters, once they've kind of had the pre-screen and updated their details, they're calling the right person at the right time, who they know is available, who they know is a fantastic match. It's going to keep your database warm by redirecting unsuccessful candidates, so we can continue to nurture them. As I mentioned, this is happening 24/7, and you become the recruiter of choice. I really believe that we move over to the next sort of 6 to 12 months, the recruitment agencies who get ahead are the ones who are going to be putting their candidate experience first. I know the market has been turbulent at times, and there's not the situation where we've got every candidate is moving like they were 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. But when that market flips, we want you to be the recruiter of choice. And doing this now is going to help with that. It's going to mean that you are the forefront of their mind, because you've nurtured them for the last 2 years, rather than when every recruiter is calling them, because there's now an influx of jobs, you're the ones they stick out. I still remember the name of my first recruiter. Has anyone else used a recruiter before to find them a job? Do you remember your name of your first recruiter? Yeah, I will never forget the name of my first recruiter, because I had an amazing experience with them. And that's what we want to happen time and time again. So that is the benefit of using candidate applications and that process. Does anyone have any questions on that and how that might look or work? Okay, fantastic. Next up, we've got newsletter, content and engagement. So this kind of flows off the back of this. So if you've got a list of 10,000 candidates, 100,000 candidates in your CRM, you unfortunately cannot physically pick up the phone and call them every single day. Now, what we need to do is we need to send them content so they are nurtured and engaged, and content that is relevant to them. So we've got potentially job highlights. If you can segment your data, so people in IT who are project managers get this, people who are the postman get this, for example, you can make sure you're sending candidates live jobs and they can apply to it. So that means they're nurturing and they're applying to stuff on your website, or wherever you're sending them to. It's keeping them inside of your ecosystem, rather than going back onto LinkedIn and then seeing the job through another recruiter. We've also got things like refer a friend, because they may know other people who are looking. What I love is industry insights, trends, salary guides, market stats. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. I'm not going to sit here and say, please go and spend £20,000 on a salary guide. We don't need to do that. What we need to do is just get snippets of information. ChatGPT, I'm sure, can be your best friend at putting all this together, and nurture those candidates and give them stuff that they want to hear. Right now, coming into the new year, be the first agency to put out a 2026 salary insight guide, because I would want to read that. Don't do it this time next year. Be ahead and start nurturing them. There are so many changes within the government and legislation and the industry. We've got so much opportunity to educate those. I got a frantic email from one of our clients at 7 o'clock on Monday morning. I'm not sure what happened last week in America, but Trump did something about employment laws, and there's a change in the way that perm candidates are going to be coming on boarding with a very high cost associated. So I got an email saying this is what we need to do. This needs to go out to every single client of ours today. And I was like, oh my God, okay, right. So what we've now done is we've created a one-page document about how their agency can support all of their clients with this change in the legislation. That went out to every client in America. That client now feels nurtured. The call to action was book a meeting with us about how we can be your agency of choice. And I'm yet to see the results of it, but I can guarantee that that was probably one of the first recruitment agencies to get that content out to clients. So the client, if they now had a worry about that or they weren't aware about it, we have given them value, we've answered those questions. So all of this can be relevant for candidates and contacts. It's going to keep them engaged and keep you at the forefront of their mind. For candidates, the classic CV tips, interview tips, career progression. I know it sounds really basic, but people really love that stuff. Like, the market is changing a lot. Like, do candidates know that they may end up being in a scenario that they might have an interview? Actually, face-to-face interviews are kind of becoming less for the first round. What can we give them to equip them for that? Additionally, clients, give them hiring trends, staff retention tips, anything like that that you can go and ask. And again, like I said earlier, ask your clients, what do they want from you? We have so much data. We've got so much data within our systems. Use that and drive that forward. Finally, just like Dave has done today, community and engagement. Invite them to events, training, webinars, put stuff on. If you've got a podcast, share it. Again, if you're not hosting events, but you know there's a retail expo happening in London, just add that in there and say, we're going to be there. Let us know if you are. It doesn't necessarily have to be your event, but it's giving value back to the community and it's helping people understand what you do and that you are the go-to people of choice. When you do all of this, it means it positions your agency as more than just jobs. You are seen as a trusted advisor, which is what we want. It drives traffic back to your live vacancies and hopefully encourages referrals. It nurtures candidates and clients in the same sort of areas of content, keeps your brand at the forefront, and it reduces your reliance on external sources because people are coming back and applying for your jobs time and time again, rather than going and searching on LinkedIn. They are in your ecosystem, which is what we want. And we want them to be picking up the phone and coming to you. When the market changes, which inevitably it will do over continued months and years, we want to make sure that you are still the go-to people for those candidates and contacts. Finally, I want to speak to you about lapsed clients. So this is a fantastic automation or way to automate that I think is really crucial for a lot of agencies right now. To me, a lapsed client is a list of clients with placements but no job or placement in the last 6 to 12 months. Okay, so you can do that and break it down in a number of ways. It depends on how if you were doing high volume temp, that might need to be a lot shorter timeframes, but a list of clients with placements, no job. What's happened there? Now, there may well be a reason the client may not be hiring. They may have closed, your contact may have left, but you have got a past relationship with them, and guess what? We need to nurture them. We need to build that back up again. So this is entirely dependent on how your business works, and there's a couple of ways to do this. One, send them some of this content that we've just spoken about. Send them market insights, salary benchmarks, talent availability. Do not just ring and say, do you have jobs? Please do not do that, because they're going to probably say no. So nurture them and build them back into that and start showing them the content that you have available. If they still haven't responded, you could send them a second touch point. But what I would really love, get our recruiters to call them. We need to get our recruiters to pick up the phone to these companies and say, how's it going? Do you want to fancy your meeting? I know we placed with you a couple of years ago. How was that candidate? Oh, that candidate is still with you. Oh my gosh, they're now the head of IT. Fantastic. I'm so glad we were able to give you a candidate that progressed over time. That is the dream. We need our recruiters calling the right people at the right time with the right message. Lapsed clients is a fantastic place to start. Coming back to what I was saying about we need lots more jobs, I also see we need new clients. So how are you doing? Well, we've just been market mapping. We've been doing this. No. These can be your new clients. You already have a past, hopefully positive working relationship with them. It should be really, really, really easy for you to see on your database everybody who you've placed with and haven't placed with recently. If you don't know how to work that out, come and let me know after, and I will show you how to do that. But this is a fantastic thing to do. When we nurture and sort of re-engage the lapsed clients, it's going to bring in dormant revenue streams without requiring loads of manual effort and just lack of it. It positions your agency as proactive and knowledgeable in the market. It gives the consultants warm talking points, and even one reactive client can generate substantial ROI. So there's so much benefit of doing that. We don't need to start cold every single time. Now, what we want to achieve, though, is fantastic Net Promoter Scores. This is the final example about how I really, really believe that Net Promoter Scores can drive value and efficiency and automation across what recruiters are doing. So first of all, now this might be a bit OTT, and that you might want to do this in steps, but in an ideal scenario, post-interview, we're going to get feedback. Now, the two questions that you ask in Net Promoter Score is, would you recommend X company to a friend or colleague? And the second question is, why? So when we do this after interview and we say, would you recommend us? What we're hoping they're going to say is, yeah, the interview was good. I had some really good prep. Fantastic. What we don't want them to say is, the interview got cancelled. I didn't know and I still turned up. That could have been resolved and solved by us. So we need to make sure that the interview process is really, really important. We want to make sure they have a good experience. Then we do post-placement at Net Promoter Scores as well. Now, as you can see, I've said we do this at week 1. We do this at week 1 because they're measuring you and what you're doing. If you do this 3 months later, when they're about to pass probation, believe me, they've forgotten about how you supported them throughout that entire process. They're going to be looking at the value of the client. So again, we come in post-placement. Would you recommend us to a friend or colleague, and really measure the satisfaction of your survey? If you've got temps and they're at the end of their project, do a final measure of experience to see how they found your business. Coming back to what we said right at the start about what is happening within your business, this is going to help you understand how you're delivering. Are you showing up? You get a score out of 10, and this determines if you're growing and going in the right direction or if you need to make change. We rolled this out for a client of ours in Ireland. 2 days later, I got a very cross phone call. Why is our score -9? And I was like, oh God, here we go. So basically what's happened is one of their recruiters out of like the 30 of them has been saying to candidates, yeah, I'll call you back. I'll put you forward. I'll call you back. Lo and behold, we did this automation after we closed the job for them, and a lot of the candidates are really unhappy. And I was like, okay, well, this is the situation. And the CEO was like, oh my God, I'm so glad we've realised this, because we need to nip this in the bud. That's not good enough for our candidates. And I think the candidate was head of procurement for actually one of their clients, and it was all a bit of a drama, but we had to have that. We had to go through that pain and get that feedback to know what we need to do moving forward. So there's various like third-party products that manage this whole thing. If you aren't doing Net Promoter Scores, I really, really would recommend it. And it's a fantastic way of understanding, would people actually recommend you, which is what we want. When all of this happens, you can identify internal training needs, retention and revenue protection. Your money is going to be safeguarded because they're going to hopefully you can spot dissatisfaction, and they're going to engage with you time and time again. You're going to get referrals and testimonials, and that's what we want. We want people recommending you, because that's going to financially save you shed loads of money in advertising and bringing you on new clients, because people are recommending you. And it gives you performance insights, benchmarks of candidate and client experience that you can work on improving. I do know some clients who actually target their consultants on that. It's now like a KPI within their business, because they know that CVs, interviews and placements isn't good enough to measure anymore. We need to be managing actually what is the experience that we have. So there's my examples of how the things that I think we can all very easily do within an agency to move stuff along. Part of this will help take time away from your consultants. It will make them more efficient, and is going to hopefully make your agency much more efficient and profitable. When you do this, as I mentioned earlier, I believe we've got more efficiency, we've got accuracy, we've got improved candidate experience. This can all happen literally 24/7, 365. You're going to have data-driven insights to move your agencies, move your tech, and move your team forward. Everything's going to be consistent, and I really believe that is going to give you a fantastic competitive advantage. A lot of your competitors aren't in this room today. A lot of them aren't doing this. And if you can gradually make some small improvements on your automation journey to get some of this underway, I really think you'll see a massive improvement.